All right, we are hot. Welcome into August 10th, the fifth chapter. We got Dennis Fifth in here. I'm Brian Jelnick, and we are ready to roll on a really hot and muggy Tuesday night. Dennis, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. Let's jump right in. If you're out there, wherever you're watching, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, listening on the podcast, we appreciate you being here. Here's what we're talking about tonight. Got a little book there for you. There it is. Coming up tonight, you got round two for Cade Cunningham, and this time he's going to be taking on the guy that the Pistons passed up on at number 2 in Jalen Green. So a lot of excitement going on there with the Summer League out in Vegas. We also got some over and unders. Raj is going to join us coming up here. We've got look back to the weekend, the Hall of Fame induction ceremonies. Also, last night or early this morning, Netflix dropped the untold story of the Malice at the Palace. We'll get into that. I watched that today, and we'll get some stories going or some wagers coming up in the fifth chapter. How's all that sound?
That sounds great, man. I'm ready to jump right into it. You want to hop into chapter 1?
Let's do it. That's Cade Cunningham, Pistons number 1 overall pick. We got a chance to see him on Sunday night. He's coming right back tonight, taking on the player that was picked number 2. This thing's dripping with intrigue as much as you can have it. At least dripping with intrigue here in August, in the month of August. I'm here for it. Where are you at with it?
I'm all here for it too. I've been looking at like Pistons chat rooms and just Pistons fan accounts all day talking about it. And the biggest thing that I've seen is that hopefully it develops into somewhat of a cool rivalry, just like number 1, number 2 going at it. I mean, I know we won't play the Rockets a ton throughout the year, but I think it's awesome to see number 1 and number 2 going in the second week, if you will, of Summer League basketball. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch tonight.
You know, one thing you know for sure is that when you're a number 1 overall pick, whoever goes to number 2 overall, you're always going to be linked with them. And so Jalen Green and Cade Cunningham, their careers are always going to be put up against one another and what happens here. And I think Evan Mobley, too. I mean, those are the only other 2 players that were ever discussed, even if it was, just put out there or not. So I think if you're a Pistons fan, you'll look to see what Mobley does with Cleveland. You'll see what Green does while he's with the Rockets. And, of course, focusing in on, Cade Cunningham and how the Pistons are able to develop him and develop the team around him. Green and Cunningham, those guys have probably known each other since I would bet they were 10 years old. I was just looking back at some of the recruiting rankings from 2020. I saw ESPN had Cunningham as the number 2 overall player, the number 1 overall player, Jalen Green. I looked into, I think it's 24/7 Sports. They do recruiting, football and basketball, and their number 1 player was Cade Cunningham and Jalen Green number 2. So these guys have always been rivals back and forth. So it's natural here. I haven't liked, the first glimpse that we got. Green was playing the game before the Pistons on Sunday. I watched some of that. I mean, he was making some off-balance shots. He was scoring. And then Cunningham didn't have quite the scoring line that Green did. And they're already, round 1 goes to Jalen Green. So that kind of stuff's fun, when you watch it. Like, you got the Summer League tonight. If Cade, has the upper hand, Piston fans will be able to, take to Twitter or go to those chat rooms that you were talking about and, fire off some emojis or whatever else that you'll do. But yeah, it's all good fun right now.
Yeah, one thing I'm looking at is that people have to remember it's game 2 of summer ball out in Vegas. So, like, everyone needs to pump the brakes a little bit. If Jalen Green goes out there and scores 30 and Cade scores 15, okay, it's not that big of a deal at the end of the day. And just looking at them, I feel like they're almost like 2 different players to compare. I mean, I do think that maybe at the end of the day that Jalen Green may be a better scorer than Cade Cunningham, but it kind of looks like that Jalen Green has that vibe of just like, I'm going to be the guy. I'm going to be shooting every single shot. I know that's what we want a number 1 overall pick to be doing, but Cade, according to like Troy Weaver and other Pistons players, is just try to make players around him better, passing the ball, just trying to get stuff going on the floor. I just want to see a leader out there. That's really what I want to see with Cade.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think anybody that if you really put a spotlight on them and you'd have to tell them to pump the brakes, I think that they would understand that it's a summer league game. the second time around. I mean, if we're really putting we're fans and we're just going to get out there and be all excited and act like this is, game one of the NBA finals, not the first time that these guys are going to meet in some summer league, which, yeah, pump the brakes. I also know that, people have to you realize that like those chat rooms that you talked about. I know that shows like this, radio shows, they do have to fill time. So coming out and saying, hey, let's just keep it all in perspective. This is just game 2 of our summer league. No, I mean, you're going to want to get worked up into as much of a frenzy as you can. Hey, this is the first time ever that the number 1 and number 2 pick are going to meet, hopefully for, the first time of many times over 10 years. Who's going to have the upper hand? I already saw it after, Green's performance on Sunday, and, people already, putting like the notch next to Green's name for round 1 and everything else. And
Skip Bayless.
I don't know about Skip Bayless. Maybe he did. I also saw it was a segment on a radio show that said, is Cunningham already a bust? I mean, so here we are. I mean, if you have to tell those people that, I think everybody just knows that this is, that we have the context. I don't think we need to tell everybody that this isn't the NBA Finals. It's August. It's great. Let's have a little fun with it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And Cade's game on Sunday wasn't really that bad. 5 for 17 from the field, 12 points and 26 minutes of work. I can't really hate on that for his pro debut. I mean, there's going to be stuff that he needs to do. He's a 19-year-old kid. However, I think he looks pretty good. And I know some of the guys he has around him aren't super great, but you have to remember, like, Cade had a team-high 5 turnovers, and guys like Killian Hayes, who did play, and like Kelly Olynyk, they're going to be catching some of the passes that Cade just threw away like that. So Summer League is always going to be kind of skewed in a way, but overall, 12 points and 26 minutes of work is not that bad for a pro debut.
Yeah, I like you breaking down the numbers, and we'll certainly be breaking them down tonight. And the one thing you don't want, like if you're a basketball fan, Piston fan, or, you don't want anybody to say, well, let's just not be excited about it. Let's not tune in. It's just Summer League. No, you want people to be into it.
Yeah.
So you want people talking about it. You want the coverage there. The Pistons, a lot of it has to do with, where Detroit sports has been in the last few years, but jumping all aboard, letting the ground level of Cade Cunningham and examining it, everything that's going to go on. I'm here for that. I think the thing that, I don't know about pointing it out a couple times, but I do know by watching Oklahoma State a few times this year, I would watch Cade Cunningham. Like, he was supposed to be the number 1 pick in the draft. So the Pistons being one of the bottom 5 teams, he was going to be a player of interest. And so there were more than once where I'd watch him in the first half, and I would look at his scoring line. He'd have like 2 points, one time no points, and the announcers kept saying, hey, this is Cade Cunningham. Let's the game come to him. He's going to distribute. He's going to try to get everybody involved. He's going to then see how it goes and then pick his spots, and then he's going to come in and he's going to be a closer in the second half. And you know what? That was really that wasn't just one game. That wasn't just 2 games. Not that he wasn't scoring at all in any of those other games, but he really does. That's part of his game.
Yeah.
And I think if he was taking the whole summer league, now he came out and the first 2 shots were threes.
Yep.
It wasn't like he was just looking to pass, but if he's just working the ball around and Pistons lost that game. That was the one thing. Like, they came out and they said they were going to try to win these 5-6 games. Well, they didn't win that first one. That was the disappointing part. Not that Cade Cunningham wasn't as spectacular in a scoring line as Jalen Green, or didn't have these highlight reel slams. I mean, he had that one in the third quarter. They came down and threw down, but
yeah,
it's it's they got different games. I mean, Green coming in was known as a guy that's going to get you points in bunches, and Cunningham was known as more of the floor general and is going to pick his spot. So that played out in game 1 of the Summer League on Sunday night. We're ready to see what's going to happen tonight.
Game two tonight is at 9:00, correct?
I believe that is correct.
Have you, just really quickly before we get to the comment, have you been a big Summer League guy in the past or not really? Do you always tune in the Summer League?
I don't know about always tune into the Summer League. I do watch the Summer League, though. I've liked it in the past. I mean, You know what? I like basketball, hockey, football, and baseball, and I like golf and I like tennis. But I know a lot of other people have all these other side of sports that they watch, whether it's totally being into MMA or whatever else it is. I concentrate mostly on the big four, both college and pro. So yeah, I mean, I'll watch a little summer league, here and there. We don't when it was in Vegas. It's a good move that they had it to Vegas. Like for years, the Pistons did in Orlando, and it was like a gym that had like 3 feet like on the sidelines, and then there's just this glass, and there's no atmosphere at all, and you watch it a little bit, and I mean, like it was kind of like watching the games during the pandemic. You really miss the fans. Where in Vegas, man, they're filling it up. There's great atmosphere. People are going nuts. So they have figured that out. And one other thing that the NBA has figured out is that people do like the regular season. They like their teams, but NBA fans, when it's trades and games and practices and things that are seemingly meaningless, fans are really into it. Like look at that's an example here. Like look at Piston fans, man. They're all over this game tonight and checking it out and everything. And it's really become, the NFL's done a really good job at having it 12 months out of the year. The NBA's right there with, all the little different things that they can do online, Twitter, packaging things up, highlights, getting it going. And this is, just a part of it. All right. You mentioned some of that feedback when you do, wherever you're watching, you want to get involved, go ahead and punch something up, just like Beth did, who is talking about Jalen Green on defense. Wasn't very good in game 1. Why did it disappear so fast? Motorcade is the more complete player. Too early to pass judgment. Yeah, too early to pass judgment. Yeah, I was watching a lot of that. Was Charles Woodson, Megatron, the Hall of Fame speeches. I would flip over, watch a little Jalen Green, and then it was the same thing, honestly, with the Pistons. Although I did DVR the game, I was watching, Cunningham, but it's Charles Woodson's talking. It was one of those flip back and forth type situations. So I didn't really get a great sense on Jalen Green on defense or anything else. But remember, defense is not Jalen Green's calling card. It's buckets.
Nope. Yeah, that's it.
Here's Keith. Keith, let's see if he's taking a shot at Jelinek yet. His first comment, or where is it going?
Basically, yeah.
Disappointing performance by Cade, and he didn't get to play very much. My boy Jalen Suggs, 24, 9, and 3, was a game saver at the end. Jalen Suggs, who is the other Jalen, who slipped in the draft and ended up going to Orlando. So Keith not just watching the Pistons and the Rockets, he's watching a little magic in the summer league.
Fifth, we're going to throw numbers down. I mean, Cade Cunningham, 5 for 17 from the floor, 2 for 7 from the 3-point, 6 boards, 2 assists, 2 steals, and 12 points. Like, come on. We can't just throw random numbers out here, Keith. Like, Cade did not have that bad of a game. He played well. It's his pro debut. I understand that Jalen Suggs may have 24 points, but okay, it's game 1 of the summer league. We got to chill out here.
Well, it was everybody's debut, right? So, I mean, that was it. That was it. I mean, I didn't see anything of Suggs, so.
Me neither.
Game saver at the end. I mean, you're making a play at the end. That's what Keith threw on there.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, like I said, I'm here for all of the back and forth in the game 1 of the summer league. Here's Roger, who are the projected starting 5 for the Pistons. Well, it's Killian Hayes and Cade Cunningham in the backcourt. And, it's going to be Jeremy Grant, their leading scorer, up front. And then, I think Isaiah Stewart would be the other one, and Sadiq Bey. I think that's probably the 5 that they would throw out there, with Olynyk, who they picked up in free agency, as your big man coming in on the front side. And then the backcourt, you got a couple different. They signed Frank Jackson, who I liked out of Duke.
Yeah, that was a nice play.
As just a straight up scorer, I like him in the backcourt. They got Corey Joseph, as well, of guys that you're bringing in there. And don't forget when the season starts, a little bit of Isaiah Livers there too. So you start going 5, 6, 7, 8 deep. We'll see how that ends up sorting itself out. But I would bet that would be the starting 5. Thank you, Roger, for that. Here's Keith again. He's talking about Suggs being the best player in the draft, proven natural leader and winner. As the season went on, especially early in the college basketball season, I mean, Gonzaga was a number one. Did they ever get the number one taken over because they were undefeated for the longest time, and then Baylor? So they were right there. They were trying to go wire to wire. So Suggs, and remember he had the fantastic game winner where
that
he
was
banked
awesome
it and everything else. So Suggs was right there and being talked about as being the number one player for most of the college basketball season. I think as he got closer, like as it got colder a little bit, Cunningham's name popped up, and then you heard about the two guys in the G League, and then Cunningham at some point, for Oklahoma State, took over as player of the year, and also the likely number one pick as well. But Suggs was there for consideration for a long time. Yeah, he likes him. That's good. There's nothing wrong with liking. You know what? The thing is, as we see through the drafts, I mean, you like your guys. You talk about them. If you were somebody like Jalen Green, heading into the draft process and said, hey, I hope that the Pistons take him, and you watch Cade Cunningham and you had reservations, and then you watch Jalen Green, there was all kinds of highlight videos and game videos you could have watched of him, and it was impressive. I was down on him. I say down on him. I didn't know much about him. Chapman kept sending me these YouTube reels.
Yeah.
Of watching him, and you could see the scoring ability of Jalen Green. So there were a few people. Not everybody in Detroit was 100%, behind drafting Cunningham. So if I was a Green guy, and it was just game one of the summer league, and I saw how well, I mean, Green looked fabulous. I mean,
yeah,
he really did. Yeah. The step backs, pouring it in, letting it rain from all over the place. I mean, he had an awesome debut. I would be sticking my chest out a little bit as well. And, same thing with Suggs. I mean, if you're a Suggs fan like Keith. And there's Paul. Always good to see him on the chat. And there's Keith's lineup. He's got a very similar type lineup that we had in there. Here's a little back and forth. Keith calling Brian a knucklehead. He kept saying he wanted the Pistons to pick up some draft picks, and he liked Jalen Suggs the best in the draft. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. There you go. I mean, if you like him, you like him. What are you going to do? You're going to say, oh, I didn't like him. If you like Suggs the best, you like Suggs the best.
Yeah, that's really what's going to come down to at the end of the day. I just hope that at the end of the year, halfway through the year, people realize that why we took Cade Cunningham number one, and hopefully the Pistons are at least going to be somewhat close to the 500 than what they were last year.
Yeah, really. I thought there was a line of 5 players, and with Suggs being in there, then it became a big 4. And then what we saw is that Toronto jumped in and took the kid from Florida State, which wrecked my tears. I always thought, Suggs would have been in there with the big 4. And, obviously Toronto didn't see it that way. And so that's always going to be one of those things that I'll watch. And Toronto know what they were doing with Barnes and letting Suggs fall like they did when he was considered to be possibly even the number 1 player picked. All right, that gets us to the next chapter.
All right, let's do it, man. All right, and chapter 2, is Raj ready to go, or what's the deal here?
Is that him down there? Is this him? I don't know. See?
That's our.
Did I just?
That's for the 4th chapter right there, man.
Yeah. Right, well, Raj wasn't. While we wait to see if he's coming in here, let me see.
Should we go into the Malice of the Palace or Calvin Johnson?
Well, we can look at last week's picks that we had, our over and unders with Raj. We picked Eric Haas. Did he have any home runs this week? I'm not sure. Jelinek, you had the over on him. Tigers 78 wins. We all had the under, although Raj, I think, picked it right at 78. Pistons 32 wins. This is not true. I think I picked them to win 33. So I'm on the over on that one. And the Lions 6 wins. I did have to go under. I think they are going to be right on the 6 there. So maybe we could work on the graph. That was Raj, the one that sent it over. Maybe he was just going by memory. I'm not really sure how he was doing that. But yeah, if he calls in, we can get to it. Yeah, let's move in. Malice at the Palace, the untold story. We'll take the fourth chapter and slide it in there on number 2.
All right, let's start off.
It?
Yeah, obviously. So the Malice of the Palace
He
documentary.
He said he didn't get the link. Did you email him the link?
I can email him the link again. I don't have his email. If you want to send that over to me while I talk, I can take care of that.
I sent it to you on Gmail today.
Okay. Well, anyways, the Malice of the Palace documentary dropped today, and Dennis had to talk a little bit of truth into me because I was just following what everybody said on Twitter, a bunch of angry Detroit sports fans, and basically anything can set off angry Detroit sports fans at any time, just saying people are hating on the city and all that, blah, blah, blah. Detroit sucks. But after Dennis, you saw it today, right, Dennis? You saw the documentary?
Yeah, I did watch it. Look, if you're a Pistons fan and you see Malice at the Palace, and you're saying, all right, it's going to be an hour or so documentary. Let's see what Netflix is going to do here. And you watch it and you say, hey, this seems to be one-sided towards the Pacers. I could see why you were saying that. But if you get the feel of what they were trying to do here, the Pacers, they brought out Reggie Miller, one of the great players in NBA history. He got to the finals, and then they showed him acquiring the different players like Jermaine O'Neal, and they showed the Bulls trade with the Pacers and how they got Ron Artest, and then how they got and drafted Steven Jackson, and that was their core group. And they really thought that they had a team that could win the Eastern Conference and win and get back to the finals and ultimately win it. Now, what we do know is that the Pistons stood in their way, and that the Pistons both of those years in 03-04 and 04-05, the Pistons beat them and went to the finals, and they won it the one year, and then they lost in a game 7 to the Spurs. So if you're a Pistons fan, it's like, you know what happened with history. This was not hey, the Pistons Pacers rivalry and the Pistons ultimately were holding them down and how they did it. And hey, this is the going to work Pistons shine. It was about how the Malice at the Palace got Jermaine O'Neal and Ron Artest and Steven Jackson suspended for 20, 25, 30 games, and how it felt like it really held them down and a chance for them to ultimately win a championship. And if you're saying that, if you're a Pistons fan, like it made the Piston fans look bad at the Palace, well, the Piston fans were bad at the Palace.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll any fan base, I think, with a bitter rival in there, I think you could say would have acted the same way. I'm not saying for sure somebody would have thrown a drink on one of their star players, and then the guys would have gone onto the court trying to fight the players, or somebody would have thrown a chair. All those things. There are a lot of people that acted like morons. So anybody that, from that standpoint, Piston fans, that was a mob mentality that was as bad as anything that you're going to see. If you're taking it from the approach like, hey, why aren't we just talking about the Pistons? They went to back-to-back finals. That wasn't the point of the documentary. The point was that the Pacers came in, they never made it to the finals, and the rival that kept them down, they were at their house in a game that they rolled them in, and that they had all these combustible players like Ron Artest, Steven Jackson, and Jermaine O'Neal, who, I didn't know that was much of a hothead, but, including with those two guys, of course, and what happened, taking swings at guys on the court. I think that, it wasn't that long ago. What are we talking, 17 years ago?
17
years.
That would have been 17 years.
There were a couple of things that stood out. One is that we have, remember we saw in some basketball games when they were letting limited fans go out, you saw it in different cities, like the one guy spit on Trae Young, I think it was, and then there was some popcorn that was spilled on somebody else, and then there was another stray drink in whatever city, I think it was Philly. Well, in this one, you had the guy that started it by throwing the drink, but then you had such a lack of security with the players going up into the stands, and then you just had random fans going out into the court, like measuring up, like, let's go. Like, none of that stuff would happen nowadays because they beefed up security so much. The other part is when they were getting the players off the court and taking them into the Palace or the Pacers locker room, the amount of drinks and popcorn and debris that was being thrown on the players. I mean, it was like everybody was dumping everything. Like, so, like, I don't know, 20 drinks, 20 boxes of popcorn, just all being thrown, chair being thrown.
I know.
You know, and all of that. So I don't know, like I get it, you know. Let's just always, we want to see, you know, everything just pro Piston. But you know what? The Pistons won. They beat the Pacers. Like Steven Jackson, you know, listening to him talk about, well, we would have definitely won the finals, or it was something like that. I think he did say that, like that they were going to win the finals. All right. When I hear teams that lose, you know, go back and say, oh, well, we would have won it. If, you know, go ahead. You guys can cry about it all you want, you know, from that standpoint. But I think anybody on Twitter that is, I just disagree with them on that. It wasn't pro Pacer. It was from a Pacer standpoint. They had O'Neal, Jackson. They had the GM of the Pacers on there. They had Ben Wallace for a little bit of a cameo who gave the Pistons perspective. Could they have gone and had Chauncey? Could they have had Rip? Could they have had Sheed or Larry Brown out there give their perspective on it? Sure. In fact, I think that would have been better. I don't know if they contacted all those guys. My guess is if they contacted Sheed, he would have told them, like, you know, no thanks. But I don't know. Did they get a hold of Chauncey, and could they have at least gotten another minute or two, or what Larry Brown or anybody would have had to say there from a Piston standpoint? I think they could have done more. If that's the argument, they could have had more representation from the Pistons. I agree with that.
My big question is, were the Pacers lower in the standings or higher in the standings at the time of the Malice of the Palace? Like, were the Pistons better?
I don't have the standings right in front of me, but I do know this. Like, the whole thing, like the Pistons, they won both of those series in 6 games, but
yeah,
it was one of these situations where the Pistons were in trouble, and both years, that's where you had the guarantee. It all came from. Sheed's there, you know, at the then Casico Fieldhouse, right at front page, back page. You know, he's in there in the practice, you know, telling them all. And of course, you know, his team backed him up, and then he did the same thing the next year. And what those series really are known for, the one big play of Tayshaun Prince blocking Reggie Miller.
Yep.
And the Pistons winning both of those and then winning a championship. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure that the Pacers, when you lose, you've got a team that you think can get to the finals and win it, and you lose twice in game 6s, you know, to the Pistons, and then, you know, you get your players, 3 of them suspended for, you know, 25 odd games in one of the years. You know, that's that will make you feel like you let one get by you there. Like, I know this, that back in the day, like for both of the years for the Tigers against the Giants and against the Cardinals, you know, you look back to the ALCS, how the Tigers, you know, swept the Yankees and swept the A's, and then they had all this time off. And you think about, well, could they have done differently? You know, Verlander getting rocked in game 1 against the Giants. I mean, that's what you do. You do when you don't have that championship. How many times you look back at the big Poppy home run? Oh, look at that. I always see people, you know, talking about, how did the Tigers not win, you know, with this pitching staff? It's like, yeah, that's what you do as fans. You think Red Sox, when they're showing the big Poppy home run, you're like, let's get more from the Tigers' perspective.
Yeah, exactly. You want to show the people the trailer real quick?
Yeah.
All right, let's do that. Let's see if I can get it actually going here.
It ignited everything. I'm never talking about this shit again. Can you get that on camera?
A fight broke out between the Pacer team and the fans in the stands.
It was like a powder keg.
From the corner of my eye, I see it coming. Some people have control. I don't.
Orchestra's in the stands! They want to blame us. These guys are thugs.
Fans are such an emotional investment. There is a darkness there.
The NBA was worried about their perception.
It cost all of us everything.
The Palace had a VHS tape for each and every camera.
I want the story out there. Go frame by frame.
If you actually knew what happened, you wouldn't even be asking questions. That night.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah. So
let me just go back before we go and bring Raj in to know, watching all of that. There were 2 things there. I didn't feel like I watched that there was any untold story.
I knew that, if Ron Artest never lays on the scorer's table, we've seen a million basketball games where players have pushed and shoved each other and big time rivals. I mean, that's something that's very commonplace. What was different in this particular game was Ron Artest laying in the scorer's table. I had never seen anything like that. And Ron Artest was always known as kind of like unhinged or off center or whatever else. And so then, getting a beard launched at him and having that, and then, Ben Wallace was throwing stuff himself. I mean, if you look, I don't know if I remember that or not after 17 years, but Ben Wallace was definitely taking off his, his wristbands and his headbands, and he was throwing them over by Ron Artest and throwing it into. So you could say, oh, fans, a little like, hey, I'm going to do what I see Ben Wallace doing, my hero. I'm going to go ahead and throw a beer. Those are the things that started it. Whether you want to say Ben Wallace or say, well, the Pacers are a bunch of jerks anyways. They're the ones that went to the stands. That's true. So getting into this game, it reminds me a little bit like of Republicans and Democrats or Michigan and Michigan State fans. They're always about, well, what about you started, or kids, Brian started it.
Yeah, like, exactly. That's always how it is. Yeah, it is.
Artest, but you know what? Laying on the table to me, it was odd, but you don't throw something on a player in the stands. It's the one thing, and that happened. But you never go into the stands. No. And then it really was absolutely a powder keg. But the couple things, again, the amount of debris that was thrown at the players is something that we're going crazy over one drink now. Yeah. And, and there was just like stuff coming in left and right. And the other thing was the characterization of the Pacers players. And I think the Pacers, they definitely they honed in on this for a few minutes. They were showing the headlines and everything. They were calling the players thugs. Like, oh man, these guys are straight up thugs. And I don't like, we get into talking about players right now. You can say, hey, the guys lost their cool or whatever it was, but I don't think people would be straight up like calling these guys like, oh, these guys are a bunch of thugs. I don't think they would be saying that anymore, but they definitely were doing that back in the day. All right, back in the day, we were showing up the impressive graph of our over and unders that Rod had sent us, and we take a quick peek on there, and then we actually bring in the man and the legend. Can we do that? There he is down in the lower third. What's up, Raj?
Hey, what's up, fellas?
My bad, Raj. I didn't read the full email Dennis sent me, so you're here now. We're all good.
I'm in the building. Let me do my intro real quick.
Sideshow, grind. Sideshow, grind. Sideshow, grind.
I like it.
Awesome. Thanks.
Now, I do think we have to clean this up a little bit because I know I went Haas under. I do think I went Tigers under, but I went over on the Pistons because I had them at 33 or 34 wins. We could check. Of course, we could check the tape for that. So if we could change that one, that's small, but I like the graphic. It looks good. And now here he is. We even get a closer look at Raj here, who is going to go with some over and unders this week that we're going to talk about here in this chapter. So what are we dealing with here, Raj?
Yes, sir. Well, we all ready for some football. So these are 5 NFL over-unders. So
okay, let's see. Where are we at? Let's start.
First one, Trey Lance, 6 starts. You going over or under?
I'm going over. I'll jump right in. I've been doing a lot of fantasy football work, heading up to September 3rd or 4th when my draft is. And, that I keep hearing about, how much they just love Lance and what he looks like and everything else. And I don't think it's going to be against the Lions in game 1, although I wouldn't be surprised to see some kind of Lance package where he just comes in. Maybe it'll be in short yardage situations anywhere on the field. Maybe they'll just let him come out, maybe like start the second quarter and let him run a full, set of plays. But I think that they'll sprinkle him in as early as game 1. And I think, when you move up and you're the 49ers and you give up what they did, yeah, you might like Jimmy Garoppolo and you hope it sets a fire. But yeah, I think that Trey Lance is going to play, and I think it's going to be sooner rather than later. So I'm over on 6.
I got to say over too, because Jimmy G is made of paper mache. I still think that as of right now, Jimmy G is the guy, but he's not going to be healthy for a full season. We all know that already. So give me the over.
I'm going to go under. I think Jimmy G has a chip on his shoulder. I think he has something to prove. He wants to show him that he is that guy. San Fran was decimated by injuries last year. I think San Fran's going to get back in the playoff mix. I think Jimmy G stays there. Give me the under on Trey Lance.
Well,
All right.
Raj, I totally agree with you. Has he ever played a full season? This is what, year 3 in Frisco or year 2?
He went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago.
I believe year 3.
Yeah, and he went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago.
Yeah, I don't think he's played a full season. The dude's always hurt. That's the
He played a full season the year he went to the Super Bowl. He may have the first year too. I think he was got hurt last year.
Okay, if that's the case, then I'm still going to stick with under or over, for Trey Lance starts.
All right, gotcha.
Yeah, you're with me, which is never a bad idea. All right, let's go to round 2. Over and unders. Raj.
Round 2. Mac Jones, 6 starts. You going over or under?
I'll lead this off over without a doubt. I think Cam's washed. It's that simple. Give me Mac.
What do you think, Raj?
I'll go over. I'm gonna go over. I don't think Cam starts all 17 games. Eventually, Mac is going to take over at some point. I don't think New England, they're going to be better. They did well in free agency, but ultimately, they're going to hand the baton to Mac Jones rather sooner than later. I think Cam is going to phase himself out. I'm going over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so too. But I do think Cam is going to start the season, and I just think it's come down to that shoulder issue that he's had, which has affected his accuracy. And it was pretty apparent last year watching him throw the football. And again, you don't bring a guy, everyone thought the Patriots were going to move up. He fell in their lap, but at the first sign of that offense needing a spark, you're going to get a tap on the shoulder, and they're going to get number 79 in there. I think he's going to work some crazy number here in the preseason. Every time I see him, I'm like, who's that guy? It's Mac Jones. Yeah, so we'll see him. I'm going over on the 6.
Okay, gotcha. We're all over on that. We're all over on Mac Jones. All right. My next one, Odell Beckham. He's back. 1,000 yards receiving for Odell Beckham this year. You going over or under?
Go ahead, Raj. You lead off.
I'm gonna go under. Cleveland has a very potent offense. Nick Chubb's going to be a workhorse. They got Njoku at tight end. They still got Jarvis Landry. The ball has to get spread around. I do think he'll get about a good 800-900. He'll make a lot of noise, but I don't think he goes over 1,000. I'm going under.
Yeah, I have a hard time getting a read here so far on Odell Beckham Jr. I mean, this is one of the great receivers in the league, and it's I know disgruntled and then injuries. He's got the kind of talent where he could go over 1,500 yards, but I've also noticed that most people, fantasy-wise, have been fading him. And I don't know if everybody's on to something or what. But if I had to go, you get that extra game. So now, I don't know, is 1,000? I think 1,000 is doable. I'm going over on the talent of OBJ. Let's go. And I like the Browns this year.
Me too.
I agree with you guys completely. I love the Browns. I think they're going to be great. And looking at OBJ's stats right now, 3 out of the past 5 years, he's been over 1,000 yards. He's been over just over 1,000 for 2019. So yeah, over without a doubt. I think he can do it Baker's playing better. The Browns are better. Too. Yeah, exactly. Give me the over.
Yeah, I think Cleveland's going to make a lot of noise in the AFC North this year.
Oh yeah.
All right, next one. Saquon Barkley, 1,000 yards rushing. You going over or under?
Yeah. I don't see him being 1,000-yard rusher this year.
I think the injuries are the interesting part here. I know he just got back to practice, and they were praising him coming back and how he looked here, but were already, remember, he had his knee injury and he had it early in the season, but he waited like a month for whatever the procedure was going to be, which really put him behind the 8 ball, and his timeline it's going to be like right at the start of the season. So they were already, Joe Judge and company were talking about, limiting the amount of touches that he was going to get early in the season while he worked himself back. You never like to hear those kind of things, like, it's going to be touch and go. I would rather have the guy sit out until he's 100% before he was full go. And, I think ultimately that's what they'll do. I don't expect him to start the season, even though there was a good report on him in the last 2 days talking about Saquon Barkley. I don't think he'd be a candidate to start the season on the pup, but I also think that I just think that he'll miss the first 2 or 3 games. I would see him somewhere in week 4. And even though you have the extra game,
I'll go with the under right now. We're betting on Saquon Barkley in 1,000.
Yeah,
Yeah, Oh, go ahead, Raj. It's fine.
You know, I was just going to say I'm gonna close it out with the trifecta. I'm gonna go under as well. Coming off a serious knee injury like that, you know, Saquon Barkley is a workhorse running back, but coming off that injury, you can't really run the guy into the ground like that. So I'm gonna go under.
Yeah, I mean, 2 of his first 3 years in the league, he's been over 1,000 yards. I just think, because he's not going to play, I don't think, for the first couple weeks, and he won't get to 1,000. If this was 2022, absolutely over 1,000 yards, but not this year.
All right, cool.
We got one more.
One more. All right. Lamar Jackson had 1,005 rushing yards last year. He went 5 yards over 1,000. So over under on 1,000 yards rushing from Lamar Jackson this year.
I am biased on Lamar Jackson. He's one of my favorite players, but Lamar Jackson's going over. He's going to look at 1,000, and he's just going to swipe that away. I still think he's the best running quarterback in the NFL. I'll take him there. They got the best running offense, the Ravens as a team here, and still the way that they're going to attack you. It's going to be on the ground. I wouldn't be surprised if he got closer to 1,500 yards. I think he's got that kind of game in him. Lamar Jackson over.
I got to agree. That dude's just so electric to watch when he's running in the field like that. He's sometimes just untouchable. I absolutely love watching him spread the field like that. Give me the over.
I'm going to have to play devil's advocate here. I'm going to be the only guy. Don't get me wrong. Lamar Jackson's electrifying. One of the fastest quarterback in the league. But I think a lot of teams are going to stack the box and they're going to try to eliminate that. But I do think J.K. Dobbins is going to have a big year because of that. So I think Lamar Jackson ends up getting about 800-900 yards rushing. Even if they're really good at the end of the season, he might potentially even sit out a game or two. So on the strength of that, I'm going to go under.
I'm high on Dobbins. I am high on the second-year running back out of Ohio State. That's for sure.
Yeah. Now, Dobbins for sure is going to go over 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
They're going to be so much fun to watch. They're going to be so much fun to watch running the ball.
Hey, they play the Lions this year, so.
Yeah, I think that's game 3.
Yeah.
I think the Lions are in trouble.
We'll really see where if that Lions defense is improved or not when they go against the Ravens.
Yeah. I think Lamar Jackson, Lamar Jackson just sit back and say, do I want 100 yards? Do I want 200? Do I want 200 passing, 200 rushing?
They drafted Rondale Moore as well. I think did they sign Sammy Watkins?
I think they did.
Yep. No way.
Yeah, the Ravens and the Browns. Those are 2 dangerous teams right there.
They got Rashad Bateman from Minnesota.
That's who it was, Rashad Bateman. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's who it was. Yeah, although he had a little soft tissue issue here, I thought that was an outstanding pick there for the Ravens. All right. Is that 5?
That's 5.
All right, Raj, anything else that's jumping out to you here before we let you go?
No, that's it. I'm looking forward to seeing Cade and Jalen Green tonight. And that's it. I appreciate you guys for having me on board.
We appreciate you, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, peace.
There he is, Raj. How about his own intro music?
That was pretty baller, man. I'm still trying to figure out ours. I can't figure it out on the streaming service, man.
Well, we're working on that. Let's look through some of the feedback here. Jonathan Lord liking the show here. We're mixing it up, going back and forth here. Keith did watch the documentary, The Untold Story, The Malice at the Palace. Let's see what he thought. He calls it just okay. Nothing that he didn't already know. It was obvious. It was from the Indiana perspective. Yeah, I agree. There was nothing. But to get refreshed after 17 years, I did anyways. I forgot exactly how it all went from, okay, here's our test on the scores table. Okay, here comes the beer. Next thing, and I'll tell you, watching our test just fly up into the stands, that never doesn't get you like, oh my God, even though you know what's happening and everything, it is, it's just riveting. It's still riveting to see after all these years. Let's see what else Keith's saying. They made a big deal that Cup hitting our test was such a big deal. Our test was mentally unstable, still is. He's a crazy man going in the stands. No visiting player is ever going to win going into the stands. The dude has been on medication and seeing a shrink for years. Yeah, well, you know what? I think that if Ron Artest was playing here, or it's not Meta World Peace, it's Meta something else. You know, if he needed psychiatric help, he said he was dealing with depression and anxiety, and if those things, weren't treated, and nowadays people would say, "Hey, let's give Ron Artest a little bit of a break." Like on both of those sides, again, going back, throwing a full cup of, throwing a cup of beer on an opposing player as a fan, and out of all of the things that went on there, and you'd say, poor, they didn't have enough Piston representation. It was too Pacer centric. They had an interview with the guy that threw the beer, and he was kind of like, my only regret is I didn't stick my foot out, trip. That guy's an asshole.
Absolutely, without a doubt. Yeah.
He came off as a tool. He was a tool for throwing the drink, and he came off as a tool in the interview. And there was no Piston fans that had his back or, thought that he was some kind of tough guy or anything else. But yeah, he came off as a tool. There's no justification. You can't go into the stands.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's it. It's tough for the NBA players. You got people sitting right in your face, saying things about their mother. It could be racial, throwing stuff at them. That's where, the NBA probably, got its start from that game, saying, hey, we need more than 2 police officers. We need a ton of red coats, blue coats, police enforcement. And we do see a lot more of that. So, yeah. Thanks, Keith, for your perspective on it. So we've got what? We're working around the chapters here. We're going to the Hall of Fame, right? Let's do it.
We got Calvin Johnson got into the Hall of Fame, had his acceptance ceremony on Sunday, and I was actually out at a bar having a beer, just hanging out, and I totally forgot it was on because I've never been a big Hall of Fame ceremony guy, but Calvin Johnson's speech was incredible. I mean, the dude talked for like 10 and a half minutes, and I forgot like how well-spoken, how down to earth, and how nice the guy is, and it was a truly beautiful speech to listen to. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought it was heartfelt. I think the thing that stood out to me, one, was that, he mentioned how Michigan is his home, and how he loved Lion fans and how they were there, and how he liked the city of Detroit. Those are only 3 things that I needed to hear.
Yep.
That he didn't say anything about the Lions ownership, or we knew that was going to be the case. And
or your guy, Rod Wood.
Yeah, we knew he was going to keep it going there. I've been watching. I like the Hall of Fame. I like watching some of the inductions. I can't say I sit there and watch all of them, but the older you get, you tend to appreciate things like that more because it's guys you've watched and all those sort of kind of things. Think about Megatron. There were only 2 guys that were younger that got inducted into the Hall of Fame. So even you've seen his whole career. But Drew Pearson for the Cowboys, who played quarterback at Tulsa and then went to Dallas, and here's Drew Pearson up there. He's like, I want to say, he mentioned 3 Cowboy owners. He went to Jerry Jones. He went to Tex Schramm. He went to the first original owner was there and talked about the ownership and the franchise. And, and most of those guys go out there. They do that. But, here's the thing with the Lions. Like I don't think it was just about, the money and, how they treated him out the door. It was overall, the organization. They've had 2 first ballot Hall of Famers. Neither of them wanted anything to do with the organization. They wanted to get out of Dodge as quick as possible. And you know what? The thing is, there's some people sympathetic, like they were owed the money. I don't care about Megatron, but you just got to make that happen. You just got to, whoever's right or wrong in there. The Cowboys gave Tony Romo his money. Yep. Andrew Luck got his money through the Colts. Marshawn Lynch. The other teams do it. Yeah. So there's no reason to hard stance and play hardball with Calvin, because you know what happens? It ends up blowing up in your face. And you know what? Lion fans don't like to hear anything negative in August, before they've even lost a game. It was a Hall of Fame. It was supposed to be a celebration, but you know what? It's their own fault that, that they didn't get any props there, even though they tried to, make good over the last couple months, if not last couple of years. But, it's fractured, and I think to me, it's just a reminder. I mean, I like the Lions. I'd like to see them win, but their ownership specifically with William Clay Ford, it's the worst organization in all of sports.
Yeah.
And, Martha did some nice things, but she also, it was apparent with cronyism and some of the things that she said is, she was closing in on 100 years old running the Lions. But, Sheila Hamp, she's been on the job for about 2 years now. I don't have anything negative to say about her. I'm not pouncing on anything. Everything that she's done so far, I look at from the hires that she's made. There were some people complaining about, she wanted her office in the middle of everything. I don't care about any of that. So even though she, she has the name Ford, she separated herself a little bit. But, to me, it was a reminder. I mean, it's an organization that, that made their own bet in a lot of ways. But, hopefully whoever that next player is that, whether it's Penei Sewell or Hawkinson or maybe Matt Stafford down the line, you're not going to have all this where you have to dog the organization or, fighting about money or anything else.
It's nice you brought up Matt Stafford because I went to Twitter looking at everything and some Stafford slap has a picture of him in like all Rams gear now saying, I still love Matthew Stafford. And do you think he made Megatron? Do you think Megatron made Stafford, or it's not really either of the case? Because I believe that Megatron made Stafford. I think Stafford is a very average quarterback. He's good, hasn't been great, hasn't been terrible, very average, hasn't really won anything. But Calvin, on the other hand, made Stafford just be able to throw the ball up and come down with it. So I firmly believe that Calvin made Stafford.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with any of the statements that you made there. I think there were a lot of years, like people that say that Matt Stafford wasn't a good quarterback. Like, I think people go overboard and talk about him being elite. He wasn't an elite quarterback, but you want to look at 2011. You want to look at the season where he had those 8 or 9 comebacks. I mean, he was an awesome quarterback those years. He really was. Now, there were some other years where you could say he was average, maybe even a little worse than average. He got benched the one season, the first year against with Patricia as his coach. That's Jets game. I mean, that season was over before it started. 2015, when they started 1-7. I mean, all those things. I mean, you can even say he was worse, but saying that he was average is, I don't agree with any of that. 2011, he threw for 5,000 yards. He had 4 comebacks of, 18 points or more. I mean, he was absolutely awesome. He was great in the playoffs that year against the Saints. He just didn't have the defense. So he was playing almost, you could say he played at an elite level that year, but overall he wasn't an elite quarterback. Way too many highs and lows. And so I think that, if Megatron, you got to remember, like, he had an 0-6, he had Dan frickin' Orlovsky throwing him the ball on an 0-16 team. He was always going to get a quarterback, whoever that next guy would have been. Who knows? He could have had Colt McCoy or something like that. I mean, you do have to have a QB throwing you the ball. And one thing that Matt Stafford can do, he can really throw the football.
He can throw the ball. Yeah, he can throw the football.
Yeah, so I think that any way it went, that Calvin Johnson was going to get into the Hall of Fame. I think that it's easy for me. It's hard trying to speculate who would have been the quarterback for him for the Lions that could have done as well as Matt Stafford in the organization. The better question is it the organization, or is it Stafford? Is it the organization, or is it Calvin? Because I think if Calvin would have gone to any other team, you could make a case that, he could have won some playoff games and, even he was a first ballot Hall of Famer. So what more could he have asked for? Well, he could have asked to, perform on the biggest stage. He did in 2011, he had 200 yards, but that was the thing. He only had a couple chances in the postseason and he never won. It's bigger when it's a quarterback, but if Calvin would have been in the Hall of Fame and Stafford racked up a lot of numbers, and it was pretty nice having, a first ballot Hall of Famer and one of the greatest targets ever in NFL history.
Yeah. What year was the Saints playoff game? 2011. Stafford gets a hard pass for that one. He played out of his mind. Just the defense wasn't there. I mean, Stafford threw for what, like 400, like 350, 400 yards, 2 or 3 touchdowns. Great. Yeah, he was awesome.
That game. Calvin had 200. He rushed for a touchdown as well. Yeah. The Saints never punted. I think the Lions had an NFC championship type offense that year. I thought they had an NFC championship type defense in 2014. But the new staff really reined Stafford in. They did not want him throwing the ball deep.
Yeah.
Remember, that was not like you don't point to that year. Even though they lost to the Cowboys, they had a terrible call go against them.
Mm-hmm.
They had a 10-yard punt, off a 4th and 1, but they were still the comeback king. Pat Stafford had over 2 minutes to go and a timeout against the Cowboys in a 1-score game and couldn't get it done. So, the way to wrap up Matt Stafford's time in Detroit is he was an enigma.
Yeah, that's the best way. An enigma is the perfect way to put it, especially for the past couple of years. Just you never knew what you're gonna get. It's either gonna be good, it's gonna be bad. It was never very So yeah, I totally agree with you about the enigma.
Yeah, it was time for him to move on.
Mm-hmm. Without a doubt,
that's for sure. With the Lions rebuilding, he didn't want to go through that once again. All right, so those are 4 chapters. That gets us to the 5th chapter, right?
That gets us to the major wager and or story time. And everyone knows how terrible I am at betting. So basically I'm going to use this platform to vent on my frustrations with my golf game right now. Played over the weekend, shot a 52 on the front, and was on the verge of shooting a 41 on the back and imploded with an 8 on a par 3. And that was it for 16, 17, and 18. Real rough front and last 3 holes. But about 5 holes I was playing out of my mind.
Yeah, I'm going to my golf game as well and talking a little bit about it after hearing your frustrations last week. And I was out there. I normally hit from about 75 to 85 yards. That's what I have in the front yard here. And so I just work with that pitching wedge. And
yeah,
I've got a small little, it's not a green. I mean, it's just a small little area. I've got woods all around it that I, throw it into. And, I can tell if it's a good shot or not. I got a cone over there. But I have gone, like I was telling you before when I started, I was like a 350 hitter, man. That's not very good in golf, but I got up to where, I was about 900 plus where I could just nice, sweet swing, locking it in there. But then I had a car in the way, so I had to move my distance way up to maybe like 25, 35 yards.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, this is going to be a lot easier. I just, just take a little bit off.
It's not.
And the first 30 or 40 balls I hit, next thing I know, I'm shooting it over to the right. I'm hitting the barn. I couldn't get one for the life of me, in the whole day. And I went to bed frustrated and everything else. And when I got back out there, I was like, all right, let's just go through. I mean, where's your arm at? I mean, where's your go? All the thing. And then, you know what? I got it. I just had to keep my arm straight. All of a sudden I got up there and I thought, hey, I got a little slicer and all these different things. I had nothing, but so I just went back to the fundamentals, and now it's now I'm back.
Yeah, I'm going to a wedding this weekend. We're playing golf on Saturday morning, so I have to be ready to go for the squad there. Make sure to have money ready to go for skins and just play better.
Stay off the what are they? Fireballs and
none of that. Absolutely none of that.
Oh,
nope.
Okay.
None of that.
All right. Good job. All right. Any final departing thoughts after that?
Let's go Jalen Green. Let's go Cade Cunningham, man. I'm ready to go. We have 32 minutes to tip off, so I'm ready to see some Cade Cunningham.
All right, we'll watch that. Thanks for watching. For Brian Jelenic, we'll talk with you on Thursday, where we'll also have a special announcement about some of our starting times getting close to football season. So we're looking forward to that. Thanks for watching. Good night.